and HF is obviously required for this tighter binding and increasing the EC50 and SC50 values. So in continuation of our exploration for the antimalarial drug targets, we sought out to explore the roles of amino acyl DNA synthetases in chloroquine action. As everybody should know, chloroquine is an antimalarial, known antimalarial, which inhibits the heme-hemozoin conversion. And this hemin released into the cytoplasm actually causes the cell death, the parasite's death. So let me give you a brief introduction about the hemoglobin digestion in parasite. Hemoglobin is actually digested in a specialized vacuole called food vacuole, and this heme is actually a cofactor required for many heme proteins like cytochromes in the mitochondria. And heme in the hemoglobin bound state is in ferrous form, and when it's released from hemoglobin after digestion, it's converted to a ferric state called hemin. So this hemin actually is very toxic and can cause biomolecular oxidation for the membranes, lipid membranes, proteins. So this is what causes the cell death. So parasite has evolved to avoid this hemin concentration, and actually it degrades as hemin using H2O2 or by sequestering it in hemozoin crystals. And chloroquine, the antimalarial drug, actually inhibits this formation, which actually releases hemin into the cytoplasm. Hemin accumulates in the cytoplasm and actually which leads to cell death, parasite death. And also I would like to mention ALA, which is a precursor for heme biosynthesis pathway in the parasite. ALA is aminolevulinic acid, which is acted upon series of enzymes forming hemin, heme. So this heme pathway is actually dormant in the blood stages because the parasite can have heme from the hemoglobin digestion. So with this, we knew hemin is the culprit for chloroquine action. So we searched the literature and found human RRS enzyme, the human arginine dehydrate synthetase, actually binds to hemin. So whether this is also true for the malaria parasite, which has an antimalarial drug chloroquine acting upon by hemin degradation pathway, we performed several biophysical techniques involving hemin binding acids with the malarial RRS enzyme, which RRS is short for arginine dehydrate synthetase. And we actually observed a dimer band when RRS was incubated with hemin. This was not true for the RRS alone. So RRS is a monomer protein of 70 kDa, but in presence of hemin, it dimerized with a dimer band at around 130. This was also, the binding of hemin with RRS was also proved using thermoshift assays, in which the apoprotein had a TM melting temperature of 43 degrees Celsius, but adding hemin to the protein, the TM increased by 3 degrees from 43 to 46. This was also true in presence of the substrates L-arginine, the amino acid, and ATP. So hemin with arginine and hemin, all the three also had a increased TM 52, meaning hemin binds in the presence of the substrates as well as in the absence of the substrates. And this binding was also shown using the Sorey band analysis, in which we saw a 12 nanometer shift in the Sorey peak.
What is the stoichiometry of hemin to enzyme?
This actually we haven't been able to resolve the stoichiometry. We tried.
I say how many fold more hemin are you putting?
So for the experiments we used 10 folds, 100 folds
With
respect to the protein. But the exact stoichiometry can be estimated using ITC. We can achieve the N number. But because the hemin for assay we dissolve it in NaOH, it's non-soluble otherwise. So we were not able to get a isotherm with.
Maybe you said, and I missed. What was the reason for suspicion of hemin interacting with this?
With this protein?
Yeah.
So we wanted to explore chloroquine action, and also there was reports human enzyme, the human RRS enzyme also inhibits hemin. So to collaborate both the studies, we went ahead and did this. So we further confirmed the binding with analytical size exclusion chromatography. This peak corresponds to the monomer, while this is the red peak, the red line is the PRS interacting with the hemine. So clearly there is a differential migration between the two. And also using tryptophan fluorescent quenching experiments, we also saw decreased fluorescence as we increased the hemine concentration. Again emphasizing that hemine binds to PF-RRS. This figure shows the positioning of 3 tryptophans. So this is the structure of PF-RRS, and these are the 3 tryptophans, and these are responsible for the quenching we observed in the tryptophan experiment. So RRS is actually a unique synthetase among all the 20 because the product form, the charged arginine tRNA complex, is actually utilized in a process protein synthesis by ribosomes. It's the same product is also consumed by the protein degradation machinery to arginylate proteins, which are destined for 26S proteasome degradation pathway. So this makes this synthetase unique. So we solved the apo structure of PF-RRS using molecular replacement, and we can see the architecture of RRS among different organisms from parasite to human and bacteria. The architecture is conserved. It has 3 domains, 3 functional domains, which are colored here with blue, green, and red. And same is depicted in the structure, also blue, green, and red. So we knew hemine binds to RRS, but is it affecting the activity? So next we perform the immunoisolation assays in presence of hemine and its constituents. So hemine consists of protoporphyrin 9, and we also used iron 2, iron and ferrocyan and the ferricine. Along with this, we also used chloroquine. So in this assay we observed an IC50 for the hemine inhibition at around 2 micromolars. But there was no inhibition for the constituents. For example, protoporphyrin was not inhibiting the activity. Neither were the ions, the iron 2 positive or iron 3 positive. This means hemine complete set containing the protoporphyrin and the iron bound in the center is required for the inhibition. So next we did a similar experiment in which we used chloroquine as an adduct. So it's known chloroquine forms adducts with the hemine, and this is the actually mechanism of chloroquine action also. And in this particular column, we see a restoration of the RRS activity on addition of chloroquine. The same effect was observed in the BME. It's a reducing agent because the ferric ion is converted back to the ferrocyan. So in both the cases, we saw a reduction in the RRS activity. And as a control, we used another enzyme, PRS, which showed no inhibition along with hemine. So we knew binding, we saw inhibition of the activity in enzyme. Next we explored the mechanism of this inhibition. And we knew that it doesn't compete with the amino acid or the ATP, because from the thermal shift assays we saw all the 3 were binding equally. So the only hint was the tRNA binding. So we did a competitive thermal shift assay along with tRNA and hemine, and we saw actually hemine competes with the tRNA binding. This was also confirmed with the dose-dependent thermal shift assays, in which increasing concentration of hemine actually inhibited the tRNA binding. We also used electromobility shift assay EMSA to show this binding, and we used increasing concentration of hemine, and we saw decreased PRS tRNA complex formation. And the KD value, the binding constant for this assay was around 2 micromolar, which is in agreement with the IC50 value we achieved in the immunosolution assay. So with this in vitro inhibition assay, we sought out for the physiological relevance in the parasite, and we did ex vivo experiments. So for this we divided parasite culture into 3 subsets. One was administered with ALA. ALA again is a precursor for hemine production. SA is succinyl acetone, which is an inhibitor of ALA pathway, and the third subset had the treatment with HF or chloroquine. HF was taken as a control here, and after 12 hours period, the parasites were removed. Equal number of RBCs and parasites were removed, and they were assessed for the RRS activity intrinsic to the parasite. So the results for this assay are shown in this graph. We can clearly see the treatment of chloroquine and ALA. There was a reduction in the RRS activity inside the parasite. So for ALA, it was a little less compared to chloroquine because there is a rate limiting step of ferrochelidinase in the pathway. So not much hemin is produced during the ALA administration, but chloroquine stops hemozoin formation and it's elevate hemin production. So, and in the SA treated parasites, we saw no reduction in the activity because SA is an inhibitor of this pathway. So there was no hemin production, hence no reduction in RRS activity. And the activity reduced after ALA treatment was restored after the parasites were treated, given fresh media for 48 hours. So clearly there is a link between hemin and RRS activity inside the parasite also. So this work was done in the 3D7 parasites, which are chloroquine sensitive parasites. We also used chloroquine resistant parasite DD2, and for the same concentration of 12 nanomolar and 25 nanomolar, we selected these two concentrations because these were non-lethal concentrations. On the right, these are the control experiments in which we see no reduction for PRS, but there is a reduction in RRS. This shows the parasitemia over time. So we selected 10 micromolar of ALA and 12 nanomolar for chloroquine because these were non-lethal and the parasite growth was normal after 4 days. And this is just to quantitate the amino acylation activity, the amount of protein in various treatments. This is an ECL plot. So amount of enzyme, RRS enzyme, is equal in all the treatments. So clearly there is a reduction in hemin, and so in the resistant parasites there was no reduction, obviously because the chloroquine cannot act on the pathways, on the heme degradation pathway. And even at double concentration of 25 nanomolar, we only saw slight reduction in the activity. So to confirm the actual tRNA composition, charged tRNA composition, we next performed Northern blot analysis. In this, we measured the charged tRNA population and the uncharged tRNA population using probes specific for RRS and PRS. PRS here is again a control. So after chloroquine treatment, after 12 hours of chloroquine treatment, there is a 50% reduction in this band. This band corresponds to the charged tRNA, and this lower band is the uncharged tRNA. So the uncharged tRNA population accumulates while the charged tRNA population is decreasing after 12 hours of chloroquine treatment, which substantiates the effect of chloroquine on RRS activity and in turn on the protein synthesis pathway.
How did you differentiate between the two tRNAs, charged and uncharged?
This is actually a 18% urea based gel, so you can differentiate both the tRNAs based on their molecular weight. So it is slightly heavier than the uncharged tRNA, so you can actually differentiate between the two. So with this, to summarize, hemin digestion releases hemin, and this hemin is actually converted to hemozoin crystals by the parasite. Chloroquine acts on this pathway and releases hemin into the cytoplasm, where it interacts with the RRS enzyme, which dimerizes and ablates the tRNA binding, decreasing the protein synthesis rate, and which can eventually lead to cell death. So what we are proposing is another indirect pathway for chloroquine action. And hemin directly also causes cellular stress by molecular oxidation. So,
couple of questions. So,
yeah.
So you know the mode of interaction, the structural basis for interaction of the hemin with RRS?
No, sir. We can speculate around the tryptophan region, which I showed, but we don't have structural information for the binding.
Other thing is that, correct me if I'm wrong, that this Tudor and others talk about the state of hibernation when amino acids are deprived and connecting with hemoglobin degradation and then this whole thing that they were in PNAS with isoleucine, this thing. you see a connect between the two of them? And also I think they want to show the elongation factor activation protein synthesis as well. So is there a connection?
We think so because the same pathway, which is amino acid response pathway (AAR), actually is activated on the after the accumulation of uncharged RNA, and the same thing is happening here. So the uncharged RNA populations are accumulating in arginine. We haven't tested, we haven't measured the elongation factor levels, but we think the same pathway will be activated upon the presence of uncharged RNA.
If I remember correctly, that elongation factor phosphorylation site.
IF2.
Yeah, AF2 is conserved, and they use a commercially available antibody.
They have done in the human.
Crudely, but
They have done in the human cells.
Yeah, but in Plasmodium also they have.
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
so
They have. Yeah.
that should be.
Yes.
That is very exciting.
Yes. Actually, we were planning to corroborate this whether this pathway actually leads to the amino acid response pathways, but we haven't done so far. So these three are the publications for the for my work, and in the current work in progress is actually from the offshoots of PRS work, in which we have shown PRS active site is conserved in multiple parasites. So what we are proposing in this review cum analysis is examples from 7-8 different proteins which have conserved active sites, which can be targeted for multiple parasites. And in this work, we are actually using different parasites, and we are targeting the different parasites using the same molecule, fabrifugine. And we have a new battery of derivatives, 10 new compounds with modified linkers, now we have improved selectivity for these compounds as well. So these two works are in progress. And last, I would like to acknowledge my lab members and Dr. Amit Sharma, Dr. Ali Hakimi for the toxoplasma work, Dr. Huston in USA for the crypto work, which is in progress. Dr. Kokuchi in Japan, they synthesized the inhibitors, and they are still collaborating with us with a new paper. And Dr. Potier for the Leishmania work, and DBT India for the funding and enthusiasm, yeah, and ICGB and everybody. Thank you.
Ask some of the questions. Most of my query, I guess I already asked, but we already